Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting number 3, Administration Fire Finance Committee. I am your chair, Jason Trombetta. Due to the efforts contained in the COVID-19, council chambers will still remain closed until further notice. Any concerns, please email our clerk at Joanne Shimmy at West Lincoln before 4:30 on the day of the meeting. We have a land acknowledgement statement. That the town of West Lincoln, being a part of the Niagara region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steep in rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattaway-Wendoronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in the Niagara region today. The Township of West Lincoln, as a part of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the land in which we live. Members of committee, is there any changes in ordinance item on the agenda? Seeing none, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest? Seeing none, there are no appointments or presentations. Just turn to number 6, request items on the agenda. Kevin's in front of me. Kevin, anybody that's requesting this evening to speak to anything?
None, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Going on to consent agenda items. Item A19-22, consent agenda items. A recommendation: hereby approve the following consent agenda items. Items 1, 2, and 3 are hereby received for information. Number 1, report WFD 0422, the monthly update February 2022. Number 2, information report T07 2022, statement of remuneration and expenses for 2021, and memorandum of new pedestrian crossings at Wade and Regional Road 20, West Lincoln. Any members of the committee wishing to pull any of these items? Councillor Riley, you have your emoji hand up.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull item number 2.
Seeing that, okay, so we will vote on the other 3. Need a mover for that, Mr. Mayor. Perfect, thank you. Seconded. Councillor Ganan. All those in favor of the other 3? And that carries. Okay, now the other one that you pulled, Councillor Riley, is the information report number T07 2022, statement of remuneration. Go ahead.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess through you
sorry, you second that to. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, right.
Second, that's my mistake. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for catching that.
Okay.
Okay.
Am I good to go?
Go ahead, Councillor Riley.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess through you to staff, so I'm going to say either our Director of Finance or our CAO. I was curious when we would be actually reviewing the comprehensive remuneration review for the next term of council.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Madam CAO.
Oh, thank you.
Breaking up.
Pardon me?
I can hear okay. Do you guys hear okay, Mike?
Sorry, it's breaking up.
Okay.
I think it's Mike that's breaking up. There he goes. He's back.
You're back. It was kind of breaking up there. You could maybe turn your camera off, Councillor Rayner, if that will help. Okay, we can
turn the camera.
There we go. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I didn't hear anything Councillor Riley said unless it was intentionally beeped because they didn't want us to hear it.
No, Councillor Riley, could you just give a brief, quick thing that you asked Madam CAO?
Seemed coincidental, that's all.
Yeah, that's fine. All I was asking was through you, Mr. Chair, to either Director of Finance or CEO, when this council or committee can expect to review a comprehensive review of the remuneration package for the next term of council.
So I'm going to start off. So through you, Chair Trombetta, to Councillor Riley. Frankly, this would be a good time to do it in the last year of a term of council, and then this council would prepare it and agree to it and put it forward for the next term of council. So we have not been asked to do it. So if there were a motion put forward to
Okay.
do that. But I would like our treasurer to also comment on this in case she has something to add, if that's all right, please.
Through you, Chairman Trebetta, to Councillor Riley. Our CAO answered the way I would answer, so I have nothing further to add.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, thank you. And so in hearing that, I you know, Mr. Chair, I think at some point I'll bring forward that motion to have that put on the table. I'm just trying to figure out if that makes sense to do it right at this point, because there's another item I want to speak more specifically to that. So maybe at this point, Mr. Chair, I'll put the motion forward that staff be directed to, I guess, prepare and report back to council on the remuneration package for the next term of council.
Okay, you hear that motion? So obviously all members of the committee hear that. I do have a seconder raising her hand is Councillor Ganam, but I did see Madam CAO's hand up, so I'll let, if that's okay,
Yeah.
Councillor Riley, can Madam
Yes.
CAO weigh in here? Go ahead, Madam CAO.
So just want to be clear or ask for clarity about what you expect in terms of this package. So you'll be talking about salaries, benefits, and the other sundries that.
All the specifics that is outlined, so anybody who's coming into the next election, they know what the, I guess, what the job includes.
Okay.
Just, Mr. Chair, point of
Yes.
order.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
So we are in the middle of
Consent.
an information report, which
Correct.
we should close off first, and then Councillor Riley's motion, which is totally legitimate, but not at this time.
So just for further clarity, Madam Clerk, does that have to go under new business or at another time? You are correct, Mr. Mayor. I was thinking the same thing, so.
I
Yeah,
would
and so-
suggest that we bring that forward under new business, as it is going
Okay.
to require a resolution of council.
Okay,
So we will
Excellent.
bring back the new item of business and then put this resolution forward.
thank you. Councillor
Okay.
Riley, you still have the
That-
floor. Do you want to speak to this item?
Yes,
anymore?
yeah.
Go
And no,
ahead.
and I appreciate that information, because again, that's what I mentioned there, as I was trying to like figure out how to do that procedurally, wasn't quite sure if we could just do it through this particular method there. So I have no problem bringing that when the time comes for a new item of business. I think I think it's important to address. So I guess I'll refrain from making any more comments specifically to that. And yeah, I'm fine with moving forward with what we have in front of us.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Riley. So we had all those in favor of the statement remuneration expense of 2021. We still have to vote on all those in favor because it's under consent, so all those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Moving on to communications, there are none. Staff reports, item A 2022, Treasurer Director of Finance, Donna DeFilippis, recommendation report, number T08 2022 community sponsorships and cemeteries and hall boards and grants. The recommendation that report T08 2022 regarding 2022 community sponsorships, cemetery and hall board grants dated March 14, 2022 be received, and that the community sponsorships and cemetery and hall board grants for 2022 as recommended in this report be approved. I need a mover for that, members of the committee. Councillor Riley, seconded by Mr. Mayor. Any comments or questions on the grants? Seeing none, all those in favor for the grants? And that carries. Moving on, item A21 2022. Deputy Clerk Jessica Dyson and Clerk Joanne Shimei, recommendation report number C01 2022 municipal and school board election alternative voting methods. The recommendation that report number C01 2022 regarding 2022 municipal and school board election alternative voting methods dated March 14, 2022 be received for information, and that the clerk be directed to proceed with the conduct of 2022 municipal and school board elections, including the use of optical scan voting tabulators and during the advanced voting period, internet voting, and that council accept the proposal from Votaz Canada Limited for the provision of internet voting services as outlined in the report, and that a bylaw authorizing the use of alternative voting methods and advanced voting period in the 2022 municipal and school board elections be presented to council for ratification. I need a mover and seconder, members of committee. I had Councillor Ganam, seconded by Councillor Bradrick. Comments or questions on this? Councillor Rayner, then I got Mr. Mayor. Go ahead, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you. My question is this not putting the cart before the horse? Based on what might or might not happen in June, could very much determine what might or might not happen with the municipalities in the region of Niagara. So until we find out where that ball will fall, I think this is all premature because should the situation turn ugly and the majority comes back again, we're done. So I think that we should just hold this off and see what happens in June. And then if it looks like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, then by all means, anybody who wants to try for this position is more than welcome in the township of West Lincoln to put their name in the hat and knock on doors, and all the best to you. But it would be kind of early to go through all this right now and find out that it didn't turn out too well in June and we'll cease to exist. So it's just, that's the way it looks right now because the feeling is that may be the direction it would go. So I'm just asking if this could be postponed and maybe brought up in July.
I'll refer your question to the clerk. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Councillor Rayner. In response to your question, under the Municipal Elections Act, we are required before May 1st to deal with our bylaw for alternate voting. Therefore, we have to deal with this matter at this time prior to May 1st.
Councillor Rayner, your floor is still yours. Go ahead.
Understand what you're saying, Madam Clerk. Therefore, if we have to go ahead and do this because that's what our bylaw states, then if that particular individual who lives in Toronto wants to change all this, then we could say, sorry, we had to do this in May because we had to do this in May. So therefore, stick it. You're going to have to do it the next time because we just wasted time that we knew we didn't have to do, but we were told we had to do it. So now we've done it. Too bad.
Madam Clerk, I guess you heard that. So we're still going to be following our municipal bylaws. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have to follow the Municipal Elections Act, and the Municipal Elections Act prescribes that May 1st is the last day to pass a bylaw with respect to voting methods and voting procedures on for the election in October.
Okay. Councillor Rayner, go ahead.
Again, in a normal situation, I don't disagree with Madam Clerk. Could we not send a message or a note to Queen's Park to get clarification on this status should the direction go not in the favor of allowing us to maintain our municipalities and therefore preempt this process? Or they probably wouldn't dare say something like this until after it's over, and that way you can't do anything about it. But I'm just thinking this still seems like an awful waste of time to me if the sense is that they're going to go ahead and do it. So why not just go and directly ask them, are you going to do this? Then can we possibly get an exemption that we don't have to do this?
I think they want to be sure that they're elected first, so before they can do anything. So it all depends on June. So obviously we have a month before. It's just the way the laws, I guess, go. And I think that's what we have to follow. Anything further, Councillor Rayner?
Well, it's just lots of times people perceive government to be inefficient, and I think this is a beautiful example of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want some clarification because I'm not quite understanding the grammar. So my concern is, and originally my concern is internet voting. So I'm looking at statement number 2, that the clerk be directed to proceed with I guess conducting the conduct of 2022 municipal school board elections, including the use of optical scan vote tabulators, no problem there, and then during the advanced voting period, internet voting. So the internet voting, I have a big problem with internet voting in general, but is this one looking at just the advanced polling allowing for internet voting? Is it just the advanced voting period?
Madam Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mayor Balsma. Yes, that is correct. To avoid any issues happening on election day with respect to technology and the opportunities, I guess, for things to crash, we are actually going to only have the internet voting during the advanced voting period, and it will be closed before election day, which would, we wouldn't have that possible outcome where we're on election night, things have crashed, which we did, some municipalities did have in the 2018 election. So to avoid all that, we are suggesting that we actually only have the internet voting during the advanced voting period. But that doesn't mean the results would be, again, just like the advanced voting, the results would not be tabulated until the night of the election.
Okay.
Okay.
The second, so I understand a little bit better. The second question is, so I have a grave problem with number 3, and that's basically the authorization to do internet voting as a concept, even if it's just for the advanced polling section. And so when I look at the proposals, you know, we're spending about an extra $20,000 for this election. Is that to set it up, or is that going to be an ongoing $20,000 expense, give or take, to do internet voting for advanced polls only?
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Chair Trombetta, through to you, to Mr. Mayor. Yes, it would be a $20,000 expense to our election budget, and it would involve this, with the 2022 election only. And then we would, going forward, we would put this in front of council each year of election to consider which way they, what way they would like us to vote, whether it's to continue with internet voting, go to in-person with the optical tabulators, and perhaps there may be others that may be suggested by the clerk of the day at that time.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask that we vote on these sections, something we do often at the region. I'm going to ask you through the clerk that we would be able to separate these items because I have no problem with looking for alternative voting methods. The pandemic has kind of compelled us to do so, but there's 2 reasons principally speaking, I have a real challenge with internet voting and security surrounding it. They used to tell me that our bank accounts couldn't be frozen, and we've seen that happen. And we used to think that secure sites like crowdfunding would be safe, and we've seen that be undermined. And so my concern is about, little West Lincoln. If big corporations and can, I guess, manipulate our internet presence, whether that's our banking or our donating, I'm very concerned that we would be, and I realize we're paying $20,000 to make sure we have a secure site, but I'm not sure anymore about anything internet. So my opposition is to internet voting. I see that as problematic, and I know there's always avant-garde municipalities willing to try it. Let them work out the bugs, and I favor doing the elections like we did in the federal election only last year. I thought that was still had a traditional feel to it. As well, the $20,000 price tag for internet voting for just the advanced polls. I mean, I know that advanced polls usually bring in 10 to 15%. Traditionally, 10 to 15% of the voting is done prior to the election day. But that seems like a very steep bill for and arguably some of those people are still going to show up the old-fashioned way and cast their ballot in person, which of course I think is the ideal. I think that's the majority of the citizenry still think that showing up to vote, exercising your right to vote in person is a kind of a fundamental exercise as a citizen. So arguably it could bring more people in. I'm aware of some of the discussions. Mail-in ballots was supposed to bring in more people, and we saw how that went in America. There's a lot of controversy, however you believe the election results could have gone one way or the other is not for debate here. But the fact that there was controversy, the fact that people can point to it and it undermines the confidence, it should make us wary of going down that road. Because the last thing we want to do is undermine the confidence of our electoral process here in Canada. So for that reasons, principally, I'm opposed to internet voting. I think I said that last time when we instructed staff to go look for that. I didn't vote in favor. I'm pretty confident I didn't vote in favor of that last time. This time, I'm going to continue to vote against that. And especially since now that it looks like it's going to cost $20,000. So when the time comes, I'd like to be able to vote on 1, 2, and 4 separately from item 3, if we could.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Riley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess I get where the mayor is coming from, and I think, I've said before, I'm a fan of voting in person, but I realize at the same time that's not always practical for the community. I think this is something that, is only going to improve accessibility. So my question to you, Mr. Chair, I'll go to our clerk, and she can steer us elsewhere if need be. But I hear, through Mayor Bylsma's concerns is the integrity of the online voting portal. What safeguards will we be having in place to ensure that it cannot be compromised in any capacity? And if it is compromised, what is done after the voting has taken place to review that before Election Day?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would refer this item to Jessica Dyson, our deputy clerk, as she did the majority of the research with respect to the internet voting. So I will refer that question to her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Through you, Chair Trombetta, to Councillor Riley. So Votes Canada, the company that we are actually looking at tonight, they have a number of security features that would allow the protection of the votes and the security aspect around that. So one of the features that they have is an end-to-end voting mechanism, which essentially means that nothing can encrypt the voting between when the elector casts their vote and when it's casted. So there's a number of security features involved in that. Another reason why, as the Madame Clerk mentioned earlier, is we would like to only offer this this voting method during advanced polls. So if we ran into any type of situation where, heaven forbid something would crash, we still have that time to pull up that data from votes and be able to run with that when the election comes in October. So there are a number of features, again, through Votes Canada that allows the security aspect of it. There's 2 options that we can work with Votes with the online voting. You can either use your app on your phone, or you can use it through the web. And again, there are a number of features that allow to allow that nobody else can use your PIN when you go to vote. You can't use the same device. There's a number of security features that will protect the whole aspect of online voting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I certainly, I understand the concerns that are expressed by Mayor Bylsma there. I think the difference we have here is, we're trying to steer West Lincoln into the future. And so I think the online voting is the way to go. Look at our municipality, to be completely honest, we're a huge municipality, heavily rural based. This improves accessibility for everyone, and not just, one particular ward, let's say, by any means. So I certainly have no issue with the online portion. I think our approach seems to be very gradual, considering we're only going to try it out this year from what's, from what I'm understanding here, even in the report, through the advanced portion, and not taking a chance on the election day, which predominantly most people actually go out and vote. And so I don't think there's any real risk here based on the information that's currently presented. And just to, I guess, make a quick comment, Mr. Chair, regarding concerns Councillor Rayner had expressed, is I would actually challenge him on that. I think this is the opposite. I think this is being proactive. I think we all have heard the rumors of what may or may not happen, but I don't think in any way that we should be fearing some kind of municipal June doomsday outcome just yet by any means until things actually happen. I think, by having this in place, should things stay status quo, then we've already done the work. The fact that we're, spending more time talking about now is actually creating more work than, what was currently presented. So again, I certainly have no problem supporting this, Mr. Chair. And I have no problem with the mayor's request as far as voting on each item separately as well. I would just ask that when that time comes, maybe we just do a recorded vote for all of them for the sake of transparency for the community.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Yonker?
Yeah, I think what we do have to realize is that we are dealing with internet, and that's it. It is a beautiful technology, but there is, to me, there's a lot of security issues that I don't think anybody can answer, and they can say it's safe as safe can be, but it's still, I think it still puts the numbers and how people and how things can go in jeopardy. And so I do have a concern with going with internet voting. And I also, I guess through you, Mr. Chair, to the clerk or whoever might know, like, we're going to spend $20,000, and really how many people are going to use that for advanced polling? That's one of the concerns too. So we're going to spend $20-some thousand and maybe 10 people use it. So I just want to know, do they have a rough estimate of how many people would actually use the advanced poll and the internet part of it? And I do agree, I do want a separate vote, because I'm hoping we stay away from internet voting.
Madam Clerk, either one.
Yeah, again, I would suggest Jessica perhaps has those, maybe those figures. I'm not totally sure of what our increase might look like if we go internet on top of the in-person voting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Yonker. Any other questions or no?
Oh, sorry, I just referred it to Jessica.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no problem. So what I would say is, based on the research that I have conducted, there are a number of municipalities who have gone the direction of internet voting, and it has come to show that their stats have gone up. Now, a lot of the municipalities have done a combination, so I can't say for sure that it was directly to internet voting. Some municipalities have done internet and telephone voting. So it all depends on what is being offered. So I can't really say that it was internet specifically that has increased their turnout. But based on alternative voting in general, it typically raises the turnout levels for electors.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anything further, Councillor Yonker? Or okay, thank you. I have a few. I see your hand there, Councillor Riley. Just curiosity to the clerk. What neighboring municipalities have used this method already or are implementing this method at this moment out of the 12 municipalities in Niagara?
Through you, Councillor or Chair Trombetta, I am aware of, I believe most municipalities in the Niagara region are going to internet voting, including Grimsby, Lincoln, Pelham, St. Catharines, I believe. Jessica? No, not St. Catharines. Okay. Maybe Jessica can speak to a few more, but I think the majority are going to have in-person plus an alternate type of voting.
Okay. And the other question I have to the clerk is, obviously this is, who drives this to bring this forward? Like, obviously this didn't come from any members of council to bring this forward in this method. What starts the engine to make this happen and bring this forward to council? Is this something that's done by the province to bring it forward to council? Is it just by the Madam CAO and the staff? Like, again, like, I know unless I'm not correct here, where does this come from? Unless somebody brought it from council.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's is brought through the Municipal Elections Act. It's a requirement that we must bring this forward before a deadline date, in this case, May 1st, to bring before council ways of voting and alternative voting and counting of votes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Also, this Votaz Canada Limited, obviously they're a reputable business. I don't think they're just from the night before, or fly-by-night is the word I was looking by, but obviously it's a reputable business. Where, like, I guess, so for concerns of members of council, where have they operated this system before? Where has it shown some credibility? If I'm looking at that, where do they come from, and what other municipalities have implemented this Votaz Canada and had success or maybe not success?
Again, I'll refer to Jessica, as she did talk to some municipalities that have already retained votes, and those municipalities' names. It does include, I'm not sure. Let Jessica speak to that.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, through to Chair Trombetta. So this company actually, it's its first time with the Ontario municipalities. The staff that are running this organization have many years of municipal experience with elections, just not specifically to votes. Votes is pretty new to the Ontario municipal government. With respect to who has retained votes for this election, City of Burlington is one. Our neighboring municipality is another. I don't know if I can say yet. So there are municipalities that have used them. The one individual who does work for votes had worked with another large elections group previous. So he does run with a lot of experience. So there's good knowledge coming to this group. I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, it's sort of a tough question I guess, because none of us have seen it. So my question kind of was, I guess the report doesn't really show what work they've done, what app they're using, is it, obviously it's friendly, is it downloaded, have to be downloaded on the Play Store, is it all that kind of stuff that, that we could find out. Like, I'm not opposed to this at this moment, but I think we could need I would like a little bit more information on this, on what servers are on, not servers, but what like, where do you get it from? Again, is it from the Play Store? Is it from like, where can we see that it's had success? Like, do we have to vote? And this is maybe to Madam Clerk, does this have to be answered this evening, or can this wait till next administration meeting?
Yes, Councillor Trombetta. Again, we have to have a bylaw in place before May 1st, so it can come to the April meeting if there is more details that you would like us to bring back, or perhaps having a representative of votes in attendance to answer any of your questions. Perhaps we can invite them to the April meeting if that would help. We're open to anything if that's what you prefer.
That was just me, maybe to kind of satisfy some of the members of committee to having this. I would like to kind of see it take place, maybe just to have somebody, if it's not pressing in time, if we can still come back in April's administration. Doesn't mean the vote's not going to go the same way, but that's just my curiosity, I guess, to think about it. But if we could, I'm just throwing it out there to members of committee, but I see that we can quite sure if maybe some other members of committee would like to weigh in on this. So Councilor Riley, go ahead first. Oh, go ahead, Jessica. And then I got Councilor Riley for a second time, and then Councilor Yonker.
Sorry, Chair Trombetta, just to clarify some things. So through a few questions that you raised, the app itself is an in-house app through Votes. So they would have created it and made sure that all the security features and the back-end technology was acceptable. It is for download through the iOS app, so the Apple Store, and through the Android. So those are the two places that you can download this app from. The other alternative voting for the online method would be their web-based, so through a URL. So those are the two ways that you would utilize the online voting system. Again, you would need to have a secured PIN in order to do any type of logging in, which you would get with your voter information letter. And after you vote, you actually get a PIN at the end to clarify that you did vote. So that's kind of how it would run. Again, you would purchase, if you would like to do the app, you would purchase through the App Store, and it would be placed on your phone like any other app, and you would follow the prompts that way.
Okay. Councilor Riley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm certainly not against deferring this item to next month. Just we're not sure whether or not the representative is going to be able to be available, or if they're able to send someone, if we'll get any new information that we don't already have. I guess my question to you, to our mayor, is just from the concerns, I heard in his voice there, is there really anything that's, and I mean this in the most respectful way, I hear your concerns, and so same with Councilor Yonker, around the internet and the concerns you've seen in other countries and how elections were held. So I'm just kind of curious whether or not it's even worth deferring, because through you, Mr. Chair, to the mayor, is there really any new information that could come forward that would consider you to support this in any matter? You've mentioned before you opposed even having this come forward now. So before we go and waste everybody's time, I'm just kind of curious if the mayor is there something new, or is this just a conviction of yours, like something that you just don't trust and you just don't think you'll come to terms with?
Well, I suppose it's fair to answer the question through you, Mr. Chair. I think you're hitting the hammer. I don't think the man's going to be able to sell. Sorry, I'm assuming it's the man, the individual, the person, the representative of Votes, will be able to sell their company, and yet I still have this grave reservation. It's my reservation. I don't think it's a completely out there reservation. I think that our discussion here this evening, and even Votes is doing an uphill battle to try to assuage concerns and to assure that this is going to be 100% secure and the like. My concern, I think I do share it with people. I've heard it, especially in light of some of the recent events that we see happen with the internet. And whether or not they're valid or not because of their different technologies, the fact of the matter is it seems like a very expensive thing to do for just advanced voting as a first time effort. I'd like to see this stuff proven. Here's my other, so as my last concern, let's say we have one person who was able to vote in advanced polling online and then shows up on voting day and cast a second ballot. Now that person would actually be fined. It's actually a criminal offense. However, it immediately calls into the question, the validity of the vote. If one person can do it, many people can do it, and that's my concern. When you vote in person, your name is scratched off. It's kind of that one-day event. I know about the advanced polling and stuff like that, but there is a kind of a grace period where the votes are tallied, the lists are redrawn up, and then you come. I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's kind of fundamentally the way. So the man can come down. Yeah, he would certainly, with respect to me, be wasting his time. But I defer to the council, of course, as a whole. If people need convincing, if one member of council here needs convincing and they would like to see the gentleman, I think it's incumbent upon him who is or sorry, I keep going to the male pronoun, but the individual representative of the company to do their marketing, to do their sales pitch. It's not going to convince me, but so thanks for asking, but I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chair.
So thank you.
Thank
No,
Mr. Mayor.
and
I think we have a lot of questions that we need answers for. That
so,
we're
Mr.
flipping.
Chair.
I still got you, Councillor Riley. I'm
Okay.
just making a statement. Hold on.
Yeah.
We do have, so just to make sure Council's aware, because I do have Councillor Ganan, I have Councillor Yonker. We do have, just to make everybody know, we do have a lot of questions that a lot of us can't answer here that we're figuring out for ourselves. So go ahead, Councillor Riley.
No, and thank you, Mr. Chair. And I agree. Like, this is something that we want to. I think at one end it offers a great service to our community and improving accessibility and having a bigger voter turnout. And at the same time, I want to hear all the concerns that others may have. So even just the concern that Mayor brought up, like through you to the chair to, through Mr. Chair to I'll go to our deputy clerk. So the question came into when someone votes online in the advanced polling, what actually happens? I guess, as a chain reaction, like how do we ensure that they cannot vote twice? Are their name already removed come election day from the list? Is it already marked? Can we just get a little bit more clarity on what actually happens if I were to go online and vote on whatever the advanced poll day? Is there something on the election day itself that if someone were to go or myself were to go, it would show that I'd already voted or they'd already voted?
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you. Through you, Chair Trombetta to Councillor Riley. We use a database, Datafix, through VoterView, and we've used it in the past. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. The company that we are looking at tonight, Votes, they are fully interchangeable with Datafix, with the company that we use. So essentially, when a voter goes to vote, they cast in their ballot. As soon as that ballot has been casted, they're striked off their voter list. So they would not be able to vote online and then go to advanced polls in person or even during election night to cast another vote, because we would be able to pull it up on the system and it shows that they have already voted. So
they would be turned away, I guess, if someone were to go there, they'd be informed that
yes,
a vote's already been cast in their name and they're turned away. So another question I have, because I can kind of suspect they'll come as well. So in order to vote online, do you have to receive anything in the mail?
Yes, that's also a very good question. Yes, so it has a two-part identification type login. You would need a personal piece of ID, and you would also need your voter information letter, which you get securely mailed to you, and that has a specific PIN to that voter. So nobody else would be able to have that same vote number. It'd be authentic to each voter.
Okay, because my question is going to be if it got mailed to, let's say, the mail person puts in the wrong mailbox. I just wanted to understand if that was possible, that someone doesn't know anything, they don't think anything, someone goes and vote, and so when someone who wanted to vote in person goes to vote in person, they don't find out they've already voted even though they didn't vote. So I just wanted to seek clarity that there was more than one piece of authentication required. So it's basically, you're saying it's two pieces, the registration letter and then the online voting option. Is that something that, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, to the deputy clerk, is this something someone has to request, or is this sent out to every resident?
This voter information letter is sent out to every eligible voter within West Lincoln.
Okay, so they don't have to make a formal request. They'll just in theory expect to receive it, and then they decide in the moment whether they want to vote ahead of time or later. Okay. All right, so I'll leave my questions from there. I think this is still worthwhile, considering we're trying this out through the advanced portion. I'd be a little bit more concerned maybe first time around doing it for the election day, and hopefully we're ready to implement that come next term. But yes, Mr. Chair, I'll hand over the floor to you. I have no problem.
Okay, I still have Councillor Yonker, and then I have Councillor Ganan. Councillor Ganan.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, Councillor Riley touched on both of the things that I wanted to mention. On the report on page 25, it very clearly explains how that can't happen, that, it's going to be a situation whereby your name is taken off the list and you can't vote twice. So I think that clarified one of the concerns that Mayor Bilsma had. I think that our Deputy Clerk did an excellent job on this report. It's very thorough, and a lot of the questions that people are asking, I think you're just giving verification to that, and I really do appreciate that you're doing that, Jessica, so thank you. I wanted to point out that I think this is a very cautious way of moving into the future way. The next election won't happen until about 2026. I think the technology by 2026 is going to be totally different again, and there may not even be in-person voting, or it might be the reverse where most voting is done online or in some other form, telephone voting or whatever, and very few people will actually end up going to the polls in the old traditional way. So I thought that as I read this report, it was a very cautious approach. It's a way to catch mistakes because the time period between the early vote and the actual voting day is enough time to rectify anything that's going on, tabulate those votes that have already been cast, and even if you have to, double check with people to make sure that they actually did cast their vote and realize that they've done it and they're over and done with and they won't get another opportunity. I just think this is a way to move us a little bit into the future without jumping into the deep end of the pool. So I appreciate this approach. So thank you very much.
Councillor Yonker, thanks, Councillor Canan. Councillor Yonker?
Yeah, I think I agree with Councillor Ganan that this is a really good report that our Deputy Clerk put together. And I think what we need to do is look at page 5 of 1 of 8. And it does show some drawbacks there. And I think that's where a lot of people have concerns. We have potential for technical difficulties to pause or delay voting, potential for fraudulent interference with ID, security voting online, and potential for fraudulent activity has been raised. So, that's where I think we, and it's bigger than just West Lincoln. I think our society needs to really realize that there is so much potential, and it does happen, that the internet is compromised. There's things that are compromised, and I think we're ignoring a lot of problems that are going on. And that's why if this stays all together as one thing to vote in favor of, I cannot vote in favor of this. So I hope we can split this up, but the internet one is not something that I want to go down that road with when it comes to elections.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Just to verify, my understanding, we are going to be voting on this separately, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I just heard that there was some uncertainty there. So my understanding is that we're going to vote on it separately. And I call for a vote for all three. And I want to record a vote for all three.
The clerk is aware. Councillor Bradrick?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the Deputy Clerk, or perhaps the Clerk herself. Just some clarity around voter fraud. So we're talking a little bit about the internet and the possibilities for fraudulent voting with that capacity. Can you describe some of the risks for the regular voting process in person and what kind of fraudulent activity could take place? I just feel as though that there would be risks in that capacity as well too that's not really being represented in our discussions tonight.
I can answer that question, I think. With respect to in-person voting, there is, as Jessica had mentioned, we do work with DataFix who we have the voters list. It's computerized. When someone comes in, they can show us their voter information letter that they received. As part of that letter, there is like a QR code. We have scanners. That QR code is scanned, and initially it brings up their name on the voters list. There is also ID that's required, so we have to have pictured ID. It has to be pictured, so usually a driver's license is the one that is used. So it's another means of ensuring that the person that is voting is the person that is that belongs to that letter, or is that person. So it does give us that sense of that the person, the elector, is who they are, and before they're given their ballot. And then once we're satisfied, the DRO is satisfied with that, then the ballot is given to them and they go behind the voting screen and secure their vote, and then it's taken to the tabulator person who puts it through to into the tabulating machine, and then it's counted. We have had recounts in the past, and we've come out 100% the same. So I feel very confident in our in-person voting. I've done it for my entire career here at the township, so I have a really good sense of that, and it works well. I've never heard of or seen any fraudulent activity in regards to in-person voting.
Thank you very much. That answers my question. Thank you.
Councillor Riley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just threw you to the clerk to verify. I kind of know the answer, but just have it publicly stated. So the QR code that gets scanned, what does it use to be scanned and verified? What's the median? Does it use the internet? Does it use data? Is it magical?
It's just like what you had when you were doing your vaccinations. It's a QR code. There's a scanner. We rent the scanners. So when you scan that QR code, it comes up on that that data.
So sorry, Madam Clerk. There, I'm asking. It just doesn't automatically happen on your phone. There's a device, and there's going to be a network. What does the network run off of that actually goes and verifies in the database? I'm assuming it's some kind of internet or satellite signal information that sends it from the piece of paper that gets scanned into the device that goes verified. Like, what is the actual network stream?
Okay, you're getting too technical for me,
Sorry,
Councillor Riley. So I'm gonna see if Jessica can answer your question,
or if our IT's on hand. I don't know if Roberta's around, but I'm just looking for. I imagine the internet's tied to this one way or another. So even if the person's there in person, if they have to get a QR code scan, it's using the internet, which we've heard tonight. Everyone's concerned about the internet.
Yes, no, definitely it is internet based. Yes, you're right.
So
sorry, we have to have an internet connection. Yes.
Okay, so we have to be, in order to vote in person, you have to use the internet, and to vote online, you have to use the internet.
Yes.
So based on that, unless we're etching this stuff in stone, I don't think we get around the internet concern by any means.
No.
So fraudulent activity can happen whether we're voting in person or voting, or not so much. I guess to be more specific, the concern is it being compromised, whether we're voting in person or voting electronically from the comfort of our own home. Okay.
Correct, and there's still an authenticity with respect to your ID. That it's the person that is voting. Like I said, in person, you are required to still provide us with pictured ID.
Okay. And so my last question, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to go through you back to you. So at the beginning there, you mentioned that you would like. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think we lost Councillor.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Councillor Rayner is logged off, and he's informed me he's not coming back.
Oh boy. All right. So. Just to verify, Mr. Chair, you made a great suggestion there, just wanting a little extra, I guess, potentially a presentation from the organization to, I guess, make you feel a little bit more comfortable with the information we're being presented. Is that still your general feeling tonight? Because I understand you as the chair, you can't make that motion. I certainly think this is an opportunity for all of us to be a part of it. I'd like, if you want to make that motion, I'll make that motion on your behalf.
Thank you, Councillor Riley, for bringing that. I was going to say that at the end. I seen the mayor's hand as well. I do recognize you there, Mr. Mayor. And sorry, Councillor Rayner did message and said he's not feeling well, and that's why he needed to log off. So just make that known. Also, because of the questions, there's a lot of questions we're directing to the deputy clerk and the clerk. I think it's fair to say we can have somebody come in April's administration meeting or whatever meeting is sufficient enough for them, or council, or what to make the presentation. And there's questions that I have, and let's face it, somebody who's advanced in technology is voting this way. Someone who is not is usually going to go cast their ballot at the school or at town hall or wherever they have them. Anybody that's advanced and is very tech savvy through their phones will download and go the QR system. We all know that. But again, I do have some questions that I'd like answered. This is brought to the agenda. Usually these do come with a presentation. Now, the other question I have, and I know the clerk, maybe you can give me an answer for this. Usually our elections cost an average around $30,000, $35,000 was back in the day to run an election. So now with this cost, is it $55,000? Or is it cut, does it save some costs? I'm just throwing, and those aren't accurate numbers, please, by all means. I'm going by back in the day when I remembered. Like, is this gonna be saving some cost at some degree? Is it just gonna be adding, you know, to the total of 50,000 now? I just don't know if I'm correct on those numbers, so please bear with me. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, you would see an additional cost to the election budget and the cost to the election of running it, to include this as a provision. This provision, though, of having internet voting does give us some, issues with accessibility, of course. And then we also still don't know where we're at with COVID too. So this can, we may be, I don't know what will happen in October. I'm just saying.
And the only reason why I was
there's
asking
an opportunity there, and modernizing elections, of course. But I think one of the biggest sell points are probably the accessibility options that, people do not have to, go into their vehicles and travel to and wait in line to vote. They can do it from the comfort of their home or at their work or so. Yeah.
So, like Councilor Riley said, and I still see you there, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Riley, if some member of committee would like to bring a motion forward to defer it to April, I was hoping to see something like that. I'd like a presentation for this, and we can vote on the three and defer the number three.
So, Mr. Chair, I have no problem doing that on your behalf if that's what you're asking, if that's going to give you more peace of mind. I'll let Mayor Billsman, it looks like he has something he wants to add here, but when you're ready to move forward, I'll bring that motion forward at that time.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
No problem. Just a question kind of came up when we were talking about this. Traditionally speaking, when you cast your ballot in hand, or if you have the ability, there is a manual ballot that can be recounted. So in the situation of a recount, in the internet, is there an actual physical ballot that's cast somewhere in the system, or is it completely an ballot, an electronic ballot, something that has no material properties that can't, like typically speaking, you have hand recounts in the situation of a close call, a close election. So if you could, I looked through the report and I don't see anything necessarily dealing with the recounts and those kinds of things. I know he can answer that, but I thought maybe if you had that answer.
Madam Clerk?
Again, I'll refer
Mr. Chair,
to
through you.
Jessica. Thank you.
To Jessica. Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mayor Bylsma, there is no physical ballot when it comes to electronic voting. However, there is, we do receive an anonymous vote at the end. Is it a paper form? No. Would we be able to go back into the system and see a recorded vote? Yes. So no, you wouldn't be able to pull up a paper form of that specific ballot, but we do see that, there was a vote casted for this specific person.
Okay. It doesn't change my mind. Actually raises some more concerns. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I yield to the will of the council. I'll cast my votes the way that I cast my votes. Thank you.
But not electronically.
In person, man.
Sorry, I just had to throw that in the way that sentence folded off there, Mr. Mayor. So, Councilor Riley, so did you have something that you want to bring forward for that?
So, yes. So, granted, no one else had anything else. I see our deputy clerk with her hand up, so maybe go to her first, and then I'll bring that motion forward.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Chair Trombetta, I just wanted to point out a small fact for your question with respect to the financial aspect of internet voting. So regardless of if we were to do internet voting or in-person voting, whatever our method we would choose, we would still need to produce voter information letters. The bonus of going through our alternative voting method is they would produce those letters for us. So although, you might see a $20,000 additional costs. We are not spending that money we would normally spend with producing voter information letters and preparing that outside of the internet voting method.
Okay, so maybe, since that question was directed at me, maybe if the will of council, this does get deferred and we have a little bit time in April, maybe we could see something cost related for that. I would like to see something come back so we can do some comparables if possible. That's just, I don't need a motion for that. I was just kind of throwing it out there. I can maybe talk to the clerk's department or through the pre-agenda. We talk to Donna, maybe some cost implications and what the savings is and what is not. I'd like to see that. Just as a comment, so.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree, Mr. Chair. I think there could be, we're looking at whatever the postage is the savings alone, let alone probably the time and resource it requires to print the document itself. So I think there could be a decent savings, but I don't think it's going to be half of the value of what we're paying here. We're probably talking about maybe about a few $1,000s at best, is my guess. But anyways, I guess at this time, Mr. Chair, I move that staff, that this item, I guess I have to be more specific, sorry.
Be number 3, Councillor.
So I believe.
Are we,
Madam CEO?
We're referring the whole, I believe we're deferring the whole item, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll vote on it then. Am I understanding that correctly? Is that not what you were hoping for, or was it just specifically item 3?
Well, I think because the comment, I see the Madam CEO let speak, but I was just I threw out the number 3 because I'm okay with 1, 2, and 4. It was the number 3 that would have the concern. So, but that's fine. You can defer the whole thing as well. But
I think it might be easier because 4 is really just the bylaw, which would then
correct.
I would assume package 3. So I think at this point we'll move. We can make that decision. Then obviously, we heard from our clerk saying that this is no problem to wait next month. We just have to have it done before May 1st.
Correct.
So this has to be decided regardless by next admin meeting.
Correct.
So I move that this item be deferred to the April 2022 administration finance and fire meeting.
Okay, sorry, I had the CA before that, Councillor Riley. I had the CAO's hand up there that needed to speak.
Chair Trombetta, I wanted to suggest that the whole thing be deferred rather than doing it in the
Okay, sorry, Madam CEO, that was my mistake there. Okay, and also I know you had that to defer it, Councillor Riley, but do we need anything through the clerk to state that we would like VOTAS to come present us for further questions? Do we need something in there as well, Madam Clerk?
If you want, I do have that in the resolution I've prepared. So I can just read that back, what I have so far. That recommendation report C01-22 regarding 2022 municipal and school board election alternate voting methods dated March 14th, 2022 be referred to the April 19th, 2022 Administration Finance Fire Committee meeting in order to have a representative Votes Canada Limited in attendance to address concerns relating to the provision of internet voting for the township's 2022 municipal election.
Okay, that sounds good. So that's moved by Councillor Riley. Do I have a seconder for that? I got Councillor Ganan. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, members of the committee, for that discussion. We had 10.1, but I think that has been withdrawn till further notice, till next month. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that's correct. The lady that had reached out to us initially had asked the question about a Citizen of the Year award. The township does not have one. When she received my email back, I guess her and her son, who is part of the Beavers, wanted to come back and do a presentation before council for consideration of that. So in light of that email returned back to us and the opportunity for this young boy to do a presentation to council, it was requested that this item be referred to the April meeting. And
okay.
I understand that he will be in attendance to do that presentation.
Okay. Also, thank you for that update. I have Councillor Riley hand up, and then I have Councillor Yonker afterwards.
I'll let Councillor Yonker go first. It was his item, but I'd like a chance just to make a quick comment right afterwards.
Go ahead. Sorry,
I appreciate that. Yeah. Basically what the clerk said there, it was brought to our attention by an email, and when she talked about who they wanted to nominate for the first one, I I really appreciated the thought, so I brought this forward to our clerk's attention that I would like this on, and then the lady and her son reached out to me, and I think that's a great idea. This young man is going to put a presentation together for, shoot, it's escaping me the name right now, the Beaver Scouts, I believe, and has already a lot of ideas that he's going to have in that presentation that I think is going to help us to make a good decision on this. So when the mother reached out to me to see if we could postpone it 1 month, I didn't have any issue with that, and I thought it was a good idea. So I think we can just wait till next month when this young man makes a presentation to our council.
Yeah, it's a good, hopefully it's be a good, interesting thing that comes out. Thank you for acknowledging that, Councillor Yonker. Councillor Riley?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I also want to thank Councillor Yonker for willing to withdraw this month, because that young lad, he's about 7 years old. And so what he's aiming to get, I was in touch with his mom. His mom had reached out to me as well and asking me questions on how they can make a presentation. They've been working over this for a couple of weeks, and when this came up on the agenda, they were very concerned because he's trying to earn his North Star badge through his Beaver Scouts, and this was something he'd already put in some work and wasn't quite sure where the topic would go, and they didn't want to take that wind of this sail. It's always great to inspire youth, so I'm very grateful that they were able to reach out to Councillor Yonker, and I'm also very grateful Councillor Yonker was willing to withdraw it tonight to accommodate that request. But it's still worth noting that Councillor Yonker put it on the agenda and had the initiative to kind of get the ball rolling here as well. So I think that it's all in all a good outcome, and I think next month is going to be a very exciting presentation to receive. So again, I just wanted to pay kudos where kudos were due.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Ganan?
Yeah, I also want to support this young man, and I think it's a great thing that he's doing. But I do want the rest of council to be aware that West Lincoln did have a Citizen of the Year situation running for a great many years in the 70s. And it went on for several years, and people were well honored for long time service in the community in a broad variety of ways. But eventually it became way too political, and the councils of the day decided to drop it. It was something that was done in conjunction with the chamber, and there was a big disagreement between council and chamber, and consequently it's something that we need to go very carefully about. I do mention this now in front of all of you because I certainly don't want to see a young person, age 7 or 8, whatever, put down for his ideas. I think this is a great thing that he's doing for his badge. However, I do think that we have to be very careful as the adults in the room not to jump on it too quickly and act as though we can do something about it when he comes forward in April. I think it's going to take a lot of very serious consideration as to the best way to move forward on this. Many communities have decided to move forward and divided it up into categories, and that might be the way we need to go in the future. But I certainly don't want to see a little boy have his hopes dashed in front of an audience when he comes forward in April. I think we just need to be very mindful that it's a child trying to do some really good things in his community, and a mom who's trying to support that. But I think we have to tread very carefully as to our reaction to that, other than encouraging the young man. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ganan. Councillor Riley?
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention, just in case I realize Councillor Ganan, I haven't had a chance to connect in a few days, otherwise I would have briefed her too on some of the conversations I've had, but they are fully aware that the best case outcome is very likely going to be an item that's referred back to staff and dealt with at a later time. I don't think they're expecting an immediate decision whether or not it goes forward or not. We have to factor many different things, including the multiple categories, as you said, if that's a part of his presentation or not. Certainly something that can be addressed by staff, and I think be a good chance to really have a chance to reference what was successful in the past and possibly what was not successful. We can kind of steer clear. So, anyways, just thought I'd mention that their expectations, they understand what the best case outcome is likely going to be. But again, I don't think we have to worry too much. I think we'll be able to handle this very well, and I think it's a great opportunity for him just to be able to get in front of a group of us and to be able to speak. And who knows, maybe we have a young lad who's going to be the mayor of this community one day, taking his first step at municipal politics here, bringing his own resolution forward.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Okay, seeing nothing further, moving on. Members of committee, any verbal updates from member of boards or any committees? Seeing none. Members of council, anything other business of an informative nature? Mr. Mayor?
I just wanted to acknowledge, I guess, publicly the tragedy that happened on Vaughan Road with the fire, and unfortunately, it's fortunately there were no human lives lost, but there was a great devastation of the hog farm, and it is devastating, even just for those in the farming community. This is you still don't want to see livestock hurt, let alone put down and destroyed in a fire. So our sympathies and consolation goes to, and I think I can speak on behalf of all of us here in council. Our sympathies and consolation goes to the family and with this tragic loss, and we'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Yonker?
Yeah, I'll just add to that too, because that's one of my memories as a kid. You still see when you see the devastation of a barn with pigs in it, it's heart wrenching. And yeah, I still have memories of that in my head, of my uncle's barn being burning down, and being there to hear that, to see that, is definitely got to be a very tough thing for a community, let alone for the family that had to be there, and for our volunteer firefighters and the chief and all that. So it's one of those tough things to definitely deal with, and the prayers are with the family that and the community and the firefighter as they deal with that as well.
Yeah,
So,
thank you, Councillor Yonker. Yeah, I've seen the email come through today, and it's extreme tragedy, and it's anything in that kind of devastation is never good for our community. Also, to the firefighters that are fighting and battling that blaze for multiple hours, Chief, I know you're on there. I hope you're doing okay. I know you've been probably up for a good 24 hours, so you just hope you're doing all right, and just hope all the guys are okay. So just if you want to, maybe you can weigh in, because my thoughts are with you guys and your team.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly would like to weigh in, and I will certainly pass on the comments to the crews. It was about 30 hours total.
Wow.
I got to get about an hour and 3/4 of a nap. So yeah, it is devastating. Unfortunately, all 2,000 got lost. So we're done there now. So they have to go through the process with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food to dispose of the carcasses. So that's their next role, with obviously going through the insurance companies as well. So anyway, I appreciate the comments. I will certainly pass them on to the crews, and we'll move forward.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Chief. Again, please pass it on, and hopefully those guys are doing okay. Okay, seeing any other members of committee or council with any further informative nature. Sun's out a little later, which is always good. So that's, is it still out there? I can't see from in here, but it's okay. Sorry. But it is out a little longer. Anyways, moving on to new business. I know, Councillor Riley, you had something for new business here.
I did, Mr. Chair. And so I guess the first part is I got to put the motion forward to introduce a new item of business.
Yeah, so Councillor Riley has it. Councillor Riley does. Go ahead, has a new item of new business, so I need a seconder to allow him to bring in a item.
Okay.
Councillor Gannon.
Can our clerk kind of fill in, like she kind of knows already what I mentioned? Do I need to spell out what it?
No.
Okay. I can read it back, but a new item of business be introduced, being the council remuneration.
To introduce a new item, you still need to just have a mover or a seconder. So no, not at the moment, Councillor Riley.
Okay.
So we have it moved and seconded by Councillor Gannon. All those in favor for introducing a new item of business? And that carries. Councillor Yonker, are you frozen there, or did you refrain from voting there? I just didn't know for sure. You're on mute, Councillor.
yeah, I must have frozen there because I didn't hear the motion. Who seconded that?
Councillor,
I didn't see that.
So it was just to introduce a new item of business, and it was seconded by Councillor Gannon.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not in support of that.
Okay, no problem. Okay, but it does carry, so, Councilor Riley, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, I guess, as we heard from our CEO, this is the time to be looking at, I guess, giving some direction on a comprehensive review of what the next term of council is going to look like for those who either come in behind us, or if we're fortunate enough to be able to, continue carrying the torch. But I guess, before we get into the inner details of that, one of the things I'm hoping that can be part of that review is the removal of the group benefits related specifically to council members. We're doing a little bit of research myself, considering what we spend versus what is utilized. I think it's probably in the best interest to remove that at this time. But I realize that's not going to be necessarily a requirement. From what I'm gathering here, the idea is to refer this to staff to have a quick review of what that looks like, and they'll come back, I'm guessing next month, and present that to us, what that could look like. So I guess for you, Mr. Chair, to our CAO, and I'll start with our CAO, what specific guidance or direction do you require at this time? As the one comment I just made, I kind of want it in consideration, because I'm hoping to get something back that says, hey, listen, this is what we have. This is some options, and we go from there.
So through Chair Trumbetta to Councillor Riley, I think I actually put my hand up when you said we'd be coming back next month. Because
okay, it's not going to happen.
No, we'll need a little bit more time, but I think that your comment before about a comprehensive review, and what we'll do is we will do an environmental scan and see what our neighbors are doing, and get even some of the comparator municipalities we've used before.
Yeah.
And then it will be brought back for council's consideration.
Okay, perfect. And thank you. And like a little bit of research I've been able to do as well ahead of time. I know, like, for example, Lincoln offers some kind of group benefit package as well as, like Grimsby doesn't. So I realize as far as, and that's just related to the group benefits. And that's the thing I seem to be fixated on right now, in specific of everything else. And in case there was any, anytime we talk about remuneration, everyone kind of perks up and assumes that, because a council member brings that forward, it automatically means they're looking to increase their compensation. And by no means is that what I'm asking for today. I'm actually looking to, if there's an opportunity for it, to remove something that's not being fully utilized, that I feel like that money can be better spent serving the community. And so I'm hoping to see a slight reduction in that area. And for those who are unsure, we're talking about an estimate of about $27,000 approximately that could be used for a number of things. But so by no means am I looking to increase this. I'm actually looking for an opportunity to save the taxpayers more money. They've had to endure a lot. I think it's an opportunity for leadership to kind of show some strength and get rid of something that's not being fully used by every member of council here. And as a result, I think there's an opportunity there that we can pass that savings on to the residents, whether it's indirectly fulfilling another job that we've just brought on a staff member for, or actually putting it right back to the back base. I'll save that for staff's review, but that's the point of bringing this forward at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. I got Councillor Gannon, then Councillor Yonker.
Okay, so I think this is a perfect time to actually be looking at where we sit. And as we're looking to have this done, I think, Councillor Riley, you first called it a comprehensive review, and I think that's the way we need to go. I think we need to know about what the salaries are, what the benefit package is, who has it, who doesn't have it. I'd also like to see something about our protocol amounts, just simply to see what policies there are around that. What can you spend it on? What can't you spend it on? And just have that very clearly outlined so that when anybody comes in new to council, they're well aware. And I think before the next election is a perfect time to be doing that, so that as people decide whether they want to run or not run, that they certainly can think about that moving forward. The last time we had a little look at this was at the beginning of this term of council, early in 2019, and we decided that it did not look good for us to be deciding on what our salary should be and so on. And yet there's no real body that puts that in place. If we don't do it, then nobody's going to do it. So I think it's very appropriate during this last term of our council that we put things in place so it's very clearly outlined for the people who come in for the next term of council, no matter who those people might be. So without sort of putting any prejudice forward to the staff that are looking at this, I think that we just need to keep it open and clear and ask for that comprehensive review of all of the things connected to being a council member, and then maybe we get a clear picture coming back. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gadan. Councillor Yonker, and then I got the mayor.
I think he froze.
Did you freeze there, Councillor? There you go.
Oh,
Got your back. Go ahead, Councillor Yonker.
Nope, he's still not here.
Still not. Okay, I'll move to the mayor, and if he gets back, then I'll just refer to him. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you for that. Hopefully, Councillor Jonker just clips a little bit and he comes back in. But I wanted to echo exactly what Councillor Gadan said. You know, and I'm glad the word comprehensive was used. Her concerns about the protocol were I share what it can be used, what it can't be used for. Is it a funny slush fund, whatever. And what Councillor Gadan is didn't raise because she wasn't on council yet, but at the beginning of the 2014 term, when we were newly elected, Councillor Trombetta and I and Councillor Rayner were on that council of the day, and the same thing happened where just inside a new term we were faced with this review, and I was uncomfortable with it at that time, and I suggested in 2014 thereabouts, probably 2015, the very first months of that we should look at that at the tail end of the term. So I've always been in favor of the tail end of the term, looking at this from a point of view that we don't actually benefit from it unless we're reelected. So it actually gives the people the opportunity, the citizens, the opportunity to validate whether or not, you know, and of course it would be appropriate, but it just, to me, it's always been a conflict of interest. And this way it removes that conflict of interest. And so for those reasons, I think this is the most appropriate time, and even more so if we can get it done through the summer, because I know nominations and stuff are open, will be open and then closed, and it would be nice to have that kind of in place. So we don't want to wait too long, but again, that's just a preference. So for those comments, I guess I'd like to enter them at this time, Mr. Chair, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Yonker.
Okay, yeah. So basically, I've been going in and out of here because of the internet service. But from what I understand, then is we're just asking that staff be directed to look at our
So
pay.
yeah.
Basically,
So what
back to us.
Yeah, what the request is a comprehensive review of the numeration, benefits, and protocol accounts that is happening with members of committee and mayor, or council and mayor.
Yeah.
Just a, so what?
Okay.
What? So
So
what?
he's-
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because the one comment was made that he's going to suggest benefits be removed. Well, I would prefer that everything be removed and we keep benefits. So is that something that comes
No. So what's going to happen is right now, the comprehensive review staff will be going back to review by doing comparables to other local municipalities. And it will come back to us possibly sometime, I'm hearing later in a couple months, could be possibly early summer. It could come back to us at that time, once they do the comprehensive
Perfect,
review of
thanks.
all 12 municipalities.
Perfect. Thanks.
No problem, Councillor.
I
Councillor,
love rural internet.
I have the same kind as well at home. Mr. Mayor, is your hand still up or is it from before? Okay, Councillor Riley, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess through you to the CAO, the reason why I had asked or had suggested maybe this come back next month is my understanding is we kind of go in lame duck pretty much in beginning to end of May. And so I wasn't sure if the same thing that's happening with the bylaw that needs to be passed that we just spoke about regarding the voting online. If this kind of met in the same criteria. So my question through you, Mr. Chair, to the CAO or even the clerk is, when does this have to be decided? Because I imagine we can't go too long with this. It's not like we can wait till November 15th.
Okay, I recognize the clerk's hand there. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Councillor Riley. Lame duck doesn't come into effect. There's actually two possibilities. The one being after nomination day, which is August 19th. And the second is after elections on October 24th between that and when the new council is installed on November 15th. It does require a certain number of councillors that are current to be running in the election. I believe it has to be, thinking 2/3, but I can't say off the top of my head, sorry, what the lame duck provisions are. So I believe that at least 5 would have to be running with the possibility of being reelected.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're in lame duck.
Okay, and so that is if they were to make the decision after October 24th.
There's 2 periods, one being after nomination day, which is August 15th. So that
Okay,
would
so
be a
it's between.
determination as to who is running after nomination day. So the next day, basically, we would know who is running and if we're in lame duck. And again, it could occur again, or an opportunity to occur again after election day if we're looking at the current, council and a new council coming in. Then it would mean that at least 5 of those councillors would need to be reelected in the position that they're currently in.
So it's basically between August 19th to October 24th, where a minimum of 5 councils or members of council have to be running again to make any decision related to this. Okay, I get that part. And so ideally, so I guess to you, maybe Mr. Chair, back to the clerk. I think this is, if possible, I realize we have a lot on our plate here, not so much us as councillors, but our staff. Is it a reasonable expectation to think that we could have this before the August 19th? With everything going on,
Madam Clerk or Madam CAO.
Thank you to you, Chair Trombetta, to Councillor Riley. I haven't talked to staff yet about this, but that would be a good thing to do. Yeah, and I think we would like to get it figured out so that, and actually, even if for people who are making the decision. So this has come up quite quickly, and I haven't really talked about the timing, but we'll be talking about it this week.
Excellent. And I realize that's about 5 months away, and I don't know what all goes into this, so I wasn't sure if that would seem like a realistic timeline or not. I just think it kind of gets a little stickier once we get into the campaign for those who are running again. I can see something like this kind of going unpredictably. So that being the case, I guess the other question I have, Mr. Chair, is so when you go and do the comprehensive review, I want to make it very clear. I hear another member of council, has a different idea, and I guess maybe whenever that comes back, that's going to encompass everything else. I'm assuming that would be the right time if we wanted to make changes, or will a recommendation be coming out, or is it really just going to be a review and then it's going to be up to council to figure out to stay status quo or revise that review or that report? So through you, Mr. Chair, to our CEO, I guess I'm just trying to understand here what we can expect to see. Is it going to? I'm assuming it's not going to be a recommendation. I feel like it's going to be, hey, here's what's going on in other areas, and it's up to us to decide at that point. Get political, or is it going to be something that staff would take a little bit of what's going on and then make some kind of recommendation?
We try to do a recommendation reports if we can, and maybe it'll just depend on the time when we get the information gathered together. And staff make recommendations and council can alter them, but that would be based on probably a package or trying to find something like at the 50th percentile of our comparators or something to that effect.
Okay. I just wanted to figure out when the time was to request some of the removal of some of the unnecessary, unutilized items that we currently get as elected officials. So again, I was just figuring out whether or not I need to throw that in as an amendment, this one, or if we just leave it open as Councilor Gannon suggested, and then I'd still have an opportunity to make that suggestion later.
I think the council would benefit from hearing and learning what others get and don't get, and get a really good sense of the range of potential packages of remuneration, because it can be salary and it can be other things as well.
Okay. Yeah. And so lastly, Mr. Chair, yeah. And again, just to other members of council, I realize this is coming kind of out of nowhere to you, but I've always had a uncomfortable feeling when, any kind of municipality regarding elected officials we get to benefit from things like group benefits when many of the residents don't have to, and they have to do with less, or others can, deal with a dental plan. You look at like how our municipality is set up, like, even though the job we wear full time, it's not treated necessarily as a full-time pay, and yet for those who don't realize at home, and members of this council don't have to contribute to the group benefit package. That is paid for by the taxpayers. And again, that's another piece of the component there that I think a lot of people don't realize at home. It's not just, they have access to group benefits. X amount of dollars is actually paid for by the members of the community so that their, the elected members and their families can benefit. And that's the problem I have right now that I would like to see change. But I guess this is not the moment for that. But again, I just wanted to clarify my concern.
Yeah.
And the reason for bringing this
That's
forward.
what I'm going to say. Like, we're discussing something that's really
Point
not
of order,
on the
Mr.
agenda.
Mayor, or Mr. Chair, do I not have a
So
floor
that's
still?
my point.
Okay, we have a motion brought forward by Councillor
Mr.
Riley,
Chair?
seconded by Councillor Gannan.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I called a point of order. Was it not recognized?
For what?
I was interrupted.
Okay, and
Okay,
you
I want
finished?
to make sure I still have the floor.
Okay.
You're just steering it away from me.
I'm not steering away. I say you still have that. We could still call comments or
Okay.
questions. There's still a motion.
But
Are
I
you-
was interrupted, Mr. Chair. You're chairing the meeting. Do I still have the floor?
Go ahead, Councillor Riley.
Okay. I just want to know if my point of order was recognized.
By what? That he interrupted? I don't know what was even said. I couldn't even hear anything. It was all scrambling.
Okay. So is
There's
my
many.
point of order
There's many
recognized?
There's many microphones that are on, Councillor. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, is my can you hear me? Is my point of order recognized?
Of course, go ahead. But there's many microphones
Okay, I just
that are.
want to make sure it's on public record that my point of order was recognized. Okay, so again, hopefully I don't get interrupted again. I just wanted to really make sure people understand why that we're bringing this forward now. In no way am I looking to increase what we get. I want to see a decrease. So that's all my comments at now. Anybody else who wishes to speak can put their hand up and speak.
Councillor Yonker.
Yeah, I thought we were just discussing that staff be directed and not that staff be directed by council. And I think that's where we're getting mixed up a little bit. And that's what I'm trying to say here is staff's going to come back with a report. Why we having a big discussion when we just make it simple and say, staff, go look at what everybody else is doing and come back to us. And yet we have a counselor that's saying, this is what I want to see, when that's not part of the discussion. That's where I have a concern.
Good point taken, Councillor Yonker. Councillor Riley.
Yeah, and again, I just want to emphasize that I was providing clarity to the reason they're bringing this forward, and I was also asking for clarity on when the appropriate time would be to bring that forward, and when the time comes, I want to make sure I could still ask that question. At no point was I providing specific direction, more or less expressing the reasons why I'm bringing it forward tonight. So as far as there being any confusion, that was not my intent. My intent was to clearly highlight the fact that I wanted to make sure that this is something that can be addressed later and didn't necessarily need to be addressed tonight.
So, thank you for that, Councillor Riley. A lot of these questions will be answered once it does come back in April. We don't need to get into a vigorous debate about all the items coming. Because in hindsight, this is what at that moment is when we're going to have the big discussion. So, I understand. Sorry.
Excuse me, Councilor. Not in April.
No, it won't be in April. Sorry, did I mention April? I apologize for that. If that slipped out for some reason. Sorry, Madam CAO, not to make you get a little nervous there. But yeah, I think at that time, and I guess I understand where you're coming from, Councillor Riley. You're just trying to put that on the record why you brought that forward, and you wanted to explain what the reason were behind it. So, but again, this debate I think is going to be nice and wholesome in the summer when this does come back to us, and we can ask all the questions we need to and state our opinions at that moment. So I'd like to see that then. I know you have that motion. And it's seconded by Councillor Gannan. I see the clerk's hand up. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you answered my question because I didn't recall who seconded. Sorry. I was just going to ask for clarification. But you've already indicated that's Councillor Gannan.
So it had been moved by Councillor Riley, and it was seconded by Councillor Gannan. Do you need that read out one more time, Councillor Riley, or are we all good with that?
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay. Seeing that motion, any further comments or questions from members of committee to have a comprehensive review to come back at sometime in later months in this, I guess for us, the late spring, later months later on. Seeing any other members of the committee want to discuss this? Seeing none, all those in favor for coming back later on? And that carries. Okay, I think we have no other confidential matters here, so I will adjourn the meeting at 8:05. Thank you, everybody.
Good evening, everyone.